All right, Councilman, ready to go.
All right, so with that, I would like to call the meeting of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board to order. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If you would like to ask a question or give comment, please use the raise your hand function. We ask that you turn on your camera so that your name appears when you speak. Please feel free to cover the camera on your device if you do not wish to appear on the screen. Also, if you have not returned your conflict of interest form, you are not permitted to participate in any motions or votes today. And to be respectful of everyone's time, we do have a hard stop at 1:30, although I heard others today saying they had hard stops at 1. So we're going to try to get through this as expeditiously as possible. With that, can we move on to roll call? Clerk?
Yes. Is a member of District 6 present?
Here.
Is a member of the Hill CDC present? Is a member of the Hill District Federal Credit Union present?
Here.
Is a member of the Hill District Consensus Group present?
Here.
Thank you, Britt. Is a member of Wesley Center AME Zion Church present?
Present.
Thank you, Rev. Is a representative of Shenley Heights Community Development Program present? Is a representative of the Historic Hill Institute present?
Present.
Thank you, Kim. Is a representative of Ujima Collective present?
Present.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Is a representative of the Office of State Rep Arion Abney present? Is a representative of the Office of County Exec Sarah Inamorado present? Is a representative of the Office of the Mayor present?
Present.
Thank you, Tanya. Is a representative of Pittsburgh Public School District present? And is a representative of Allegheny County Council present? We do have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, I want to first introduce new members that we have joining us today. We have Miss Loretta Payne, who I believe is appointed on behalf of the Hill District Consensus Group, and we have Miss Tanya Ford, who was appointed by the mayor. So I just want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves.
And Chairman Lavelle, Britt is actually here today until Loretta is fully onboarded. So Hill District Consensus Group just let me know that information prior to today's meeting. So Britt is still on this call. Ms. Loretta will formally be at our next meeting.
Oh, okay. I believe I saw Tanya was with us.
Yes, Tanya is with us, and Tanya, it'd be great for you to introduce yourself to the board.
So if I'm a resident of the Hill District and also a business owner, and I am looking forward to serving the community.
Thank you. And Councilman, I'm not sure if Deputy Director Lane is on the call today.
I don't believe I see. Yeah, he's here.
Majestic, I thought it would be good for you to just introduce yourself to the board and your new role at the URA and whatever other remarks you would like to make.
Sure. And good afternoon, everyone. Majestic Lane, Deputy Director and Chief Strategy Officer for the URA. It's an honor to just be listening to the call. Just for context, a lot of my work is around how does the URA continue to advance strategies of inclusive community and economic development, of which this is a prime example of the ways that community is informing the decisions that the URA and others are making around what development looks like here in the city. So just here to listen. If anyone has any questions or anything offline I can share, no problem at all. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
And Kirk, just want to highlight that Miss Loretta is here with us. She is also joined today. Just wanted to put that out there as well, in case you wanted to speak.
Yes, Miss Loretta.
Yeah.
It would be great if you could introduce yourself for the board. I know there's a transition that is occurring with you and Britt. But if you wanted to say a few words, please feel free.
Okay, my name's Loretta Payne. I am a lifelong Hill District resident. And I'm a small business owner of Hill District Notary, and I'm glad to be amongst your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item.
Councilman?
Yes. So next, I just want to remind everyone that as we welcome new members to the board, both those who are voting and non-voting, I would like to remind everyone that within our guidelines, there is guidelines that speak to conflicts of interest that have to be disclosed, confidentiality that is supposed to stay within these conversations, specifically when we go to executive session, and just general meeting norms. So I just want to remind everyone that when we're in sort of an executive session, what happens there should stay there, should not make it out into the public domain. With that, I want to move on to old business and begin with the Alerta financial report.
Thank you, Councilman. Alex, are you on the call? Alex?
Hear me?
Yes, you're breaking up a bit, Alex.
All right. Is this better?
Yes, it is.
All right, perfect. So, Kirk, are you, we just had you on it's not in the presentation mode for your,
Okay.
I'm not sure if you have the Alerta update slide pulled up. Okay, perfect. All right, so a few updates for the Alerta fund today. So our February balance ending on February 28th is $7,388,267.85. Projected future revenue sources are similar to what was presented last time. So the Block E2 LERTA payments will begin next fall in 2027. And that'll be deposited on April 1st of each subsequent year for a period of 10 years. And as a reminder, that is the abatement of property tax increases. It's equal to the value of the abatement of the property tax increases from the development up to $250,000. So 50% of that $250,000 is $125,000. So that's over a period of 10 years. So those will start materializing in the reinvestment fund starting in 2028. So for the current parking lot setup, the URA provides $1 per car going into the reinvestment fund on its Melody tent lots. So the 2025 total parking revenues that are going to be deposited into the reinvestment fund account are $73,508. I'm working with our real estate department to kind of finalize that transfer, so that should be in the account by next meeting. The other news is that Live Nation announced its upcoming lineup. So they're going to start shows in October 2026. So that's going to be the trigger event under our agreement that starts the clock for the $2 per ticket surcharge that goes into the reinvestment fund. So just as an overview of the terms here, every public ticket sold by Live Nation for a period of 10 years will have a $2 ticket surcharge, which is then deposited into the reinvestment fund every 6 months. So the first deposit we'll see will be on April 2nd, 2027, and that will run for a period of 10 years from that initial show, which is October 2nd, 2036. One thing to note that 10% of that funding will be retained for an audit reserve account, and that's going to be held in that account for audit costs, any fees associated with the payment, and that's going to be there until 15 months after the 10-year ticket surcharge period. So anything left in there as of January 2nd, 2038 will then be deposited into the reinvestment fund. Finally, the last update, so the URA announced a few changes to the Lower Hill LERTA structure. So for some context, when the the Lower Hill LRTA was established, it envisioned the Greater Hill District Reinvestment Fund and the Lower Hill Development Fund, with 50% of the LRTA benefit going into the Reinvestment Fund, the remaining 50% going into the Lower Hill Development Fund. In 2021, the URA and the SEA agreed to, in lieu of the Lower Hill Development Fund, the Pittsburgh Penguins could retain that other 50% abatement to use specifically for on-site infrastructure. So instead of that coming to the URA and passing through the URA as a public entity, PAR could hold on to that. So when the LRTA payment was monetized for the F&B tower, $7.5 million was slated to go to the redevelopment fund, and then the additional $7.5 million was retained on site to assist the construction of the parking component of the F&B tower. And so instead of having a retained amount now, the URA and the SCA want to kind of create this Lower Hill Development Fund where the authorities themselves can spend that money on public infrastructure improvements. So that could include curtain call. So we wouldn't be letting the developer keep that other 50% abatement. Now, just to clarify, this will not impact the Greater Hill District Reinvestment Fund. That 50% of the owner payment is still going to be required for all future development. The other thing is that we're going to also require upfront monetization of the LRTA payments. So instead of having it once per year over 10 years, we're going to do it similar to how the FND Financial Center was funded, where we kind of asked that whole LRTA benefit before upfront to the fund to receive the fund better, and then generate interest on those funds. So does anybody have any questions on the LRTA fund update this week?
I do. Yeah, Alex, so you talked about Live Nation, that their fees, that 10% of what goes into the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund would be saved for, admin things and fees. And under that, so it sounds as though in terms of the agreement that was made, that their fees were like baked into what is being given to the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund. Is that, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so not quite. So it's kind of the 10% would be held in escrow for the payment of fees. And then, so it's going to be actual costs that are deducted from that escrow account, but anything left over would then be deposited into the reinvestment fund. So they're not taking 10% of the full of the $2 per ticket. It would just be reserving that to be paid later.
Okay, and so I'm just wondering, did they do that in response to the controversy over the $313,000 that is owed by the developers? Because those are fees as well. Like that's been a part of the whole issue overall, in them taking out the loan and the fees. I mean, I've heard so many different things, but I'm just curious if you could clarify that.
Yeah, so this is unrelated. So this is an additional benefit on top of the LRTA. So we're not accounting for any upfront monetization fees here. So the Live Nation venue is still going to be responsible for that LRTA payment. So and then this ticket surcharge agreement is a separate agreement with Live Nation specifically.
Right. Yeah, I know that.
Completely different than BPG, so it wasn't done in response to what was owed under the F&B tower.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions before we move on?
Seeing no further applications for URA, let's move on to the application updates.
Thank you, Councilman. So yes, I would like to provide an update related to the applications that we have received for our other grant making programs, which is the Workforce Development Initiatives Program and the Children's Youth and Education grant programs. I think the last couple months I've given updates that I knew that these applications would be coming in as we get closer to our deadline for this round one, and we've continued to see that. And so to date, we have 5 complete applications, and I'll explain complete in a second, received in total for workforce development initiatives and children's and youth and education grant programs. I've met with many other applicants who I know will be submitting applications very soon. And we still have gotten some strong applicants out of the 5. So we have 3 total for children's, youth, and education. Without going into too much detail, that they're focused on intergenerational education opportunities, that there's been some emphasis on building up skill sets in reading, which is exciting, and we have some strong applications there out of those 3. We've received 2 workforce development initiatives applications, and those probably came in over the last few weeks. We received 2 additional in addition to those 2 complete applications, but they were not incomplete and they are receiving technical assistance, which is some support I can provide. And just to give some context, one of the applicants, the uses of funds were ineligible based off of our granting guidelines. And the other applicant, the application was incomplete in terms of not properly responding to some of the questions around goals and objectives, community impact. And so I would like to provide some technical assistance to that applicant in hopes that they are able to put forth a complete application. Again, we continue to get applications as recently as last Friday. And we're looking forward during our next meeting, which would be April 14th, having an executive session to go through those applicants, receive recommendations, and then ultimately have it up to this board to make approvals. I think that this allows a little bit of time to get some more applicants in. It also allows us to get the applications that we're getting in to our scoring panel members in a way that doesn't overburden them or reduce the time that they have to score. And then I think it also allows us to spend basically the majority of our next meeting reviewing and having discussions in executive session to make those decisions. I think I learned a lot and we learned a lot going through the development program initiatives program and thinking about how to present those applications and how to present them in a way that was most easily digestible, but also just tight and thorough with the information. And so we'll be able to do this in April. That will allow those approved applicants to go to the URA board for formal approval in May. And looking at the timeline of those applications that's come in, I think almost all of them have timelines that begin in June. And so that still keeps us on track. That doesn't derail the intended timeline of these projects, but helps us take another exciting step towards actually getting some funds out to support the people and families within the community. Wanted to take a pause to see if there were any questions. Okay, and the next agenda item that was prepared for today was just related to the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board timeline. I want to publicly acknowledge, as I did during my comments last week at the URA board meeting, that the advisory board has been putting in a ton of work. I think dating back to early fall of last year, we've been meeting monthly, understanding the importance of the task that's before us all, and really working tirelessly to be able to get funds out into the community. We have scheduled 2 more meetings. That's the meeting on April 14th, again, which will be dedicated to the Children's Youth and Education and Workforce Development Initiative applications and review and approvals and discussions in executive session. And then we also have a May 21st advisory board meeting, and that agenda will be determined based off of where we are within our first round of funding. And speaking with the co-chairs, the plan is to resume the monthly meetings in August and to take a bit of a hiatus in the summer but not a hiatus where the work will cease. We actually will take a deep dive through a working retreat in June and July. I'm currently putting together a scope of work and looking at some potential facilitators, outside facilitators that would be able to engage with us, learn about what we've learned through our first round, and help us come together again on a working retreat, which would include, but is not limited to, establishing community agreements. This is something that was brought up in one of our executive session um, conversations, and just really continuing to establish, what this board cares about, how this board interacts with one another, et cetera. And that'll be a key component of that working retreat. Clearly, we want to debrief on round one of funding and the refinement of the processes. There are so many things that I've learned just again in the last 4 weeks as we were making approvals for the development program initiative grant making program. I'm sure that there's other things that advisory board members have noted. There have been conversations about really looking at the scoring rubric, which was maybe sufficient to get us through a pilot, but needs to be refined as we continue. And that'll be a key part of those discussions. I think it's important that we think about a timeline for a round two of funding. We know that's important. We know that there are needs that we haven't fully met. And so that would be a key component of that discussion. And what I added here also, just thinking what, I would like to see as part of those discussions would be an approval of additional guidelines. I know that there are many small and minority and women-owned businesses in the Hill that could benefit from a grant making slash, low interest loan type of program, but really fleshing that out. We've talked about that as a committee. That's one of the guidelines we didn't get over the finish line. But I know it's important to the community, and housing continues to be a conversation that comes up in many different ways. Just trying to figure out how do we have that discussion again? How do we find a sweet spot on a second round of funding, and using our collective brain power to kind of achieve these goals? So the work has been tremendous. The advisory board is the backbone of the work, taking a little bit of break in the summer, but it's also going to give us the momentum we need to engage in the fall and in quarter three and continue this process. I wanted to take a time to see first if there are other ideas of things that could be integrated or would like to be seen integrated into a working retreat. But then also in general, just to see if there are any questions or comments related to the proposed timeline.
Kurt, Lakeisha put in that your slide hadn't moved from the LERTA fund update, so
Okay.
she couldn't see the timeline slide.
Let me try to do this again, guys, and I apologize.
Yeah, and Kirk, I didn't know you were going to timeline. I thought you were talking about another topic relative to the application. So I do have comments about the applications.
Okay. So, can you guys see the first slide and see me moving through?
No, we can only see you right now. You have to do presentation mode again.
Okay, you guys should be able to see a list of the board members. Is that not the case?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, cool. Okay. Kim, I'm on the application slide.
Oh, thank you. So this is basically old business. I thought, based on our previous meeting, that when we were coming into this meeting that we were definitely having the reallocation, the conversation specifically about the development. And I do recall Councilman Lavelle said that the URA would welcome and approve any decision that we made about reallocation. And so I definitely thought that we were going to address that in this meeting. And I think that we absolutely should address it in this meeting, especially now that you have announced that we're going on a hiatus. You made a comment, Kirk, and my comments are not directed to you. I'm just thinking of the comment that you just made. Okay. You made a comment about the children's activities and how they would be approved in May, because a lot of people, as we know, they're preparing for the summer for children's activities, right? So it's very considerate for us to say, get on in here, let's approve your applications because we know that you want to do things in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I made that same point relative to development in the last 2 meetings that we've had, that in our approvals, we should be considerate of developers who make a lot of progress during the summer. So now that I'm hearing that we're actually taking off 2 months and we'll come back in August, I have to reiterate the urgency of us to go ahead and make the decision in this meeting to reallocate funds for the developments that were in the package, the 8 that we all said were really good and had a discussion about it, and we should continue to have a discussion about it, to go ahead and make that reallocation for that amount and get those projects out there. And that under that same consideration that the summer is exceptionally important, especially for developers. And we all know development is hard. So that's my comment number 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any?
Please, Rev. Grayson. My
Yes.
only comment in that is, Kim, I agree with you to some point, but in terms of reallocation of dollars, I just think we can't do this in the same time frame as our meeting, that we have to find a separate time sooner than later to go over those thoughts if we want to do that. But I think it's hard to, with an agenda and where we are, to do that. And though we've already approved one, to now, I just don't think we got those. I think that's going to take longer time in a separate meeting that I'm definitely willing to be a part of. But I don't think we can do those things again in this structured meeting that we have, when some people are getting off by 1 and some the latest of 1:30. And I know we are all volunteers and there's a great commitment. And again, you're correct in terms of getting projects out before the summer, but I just think we have to figure out, a Saturday or somewhere we can come together and do this, if we're going to do this in a way that it's not rushed, because those items, that agenda alone takes more than a lot of time we have today.
Rev, that was sort of the idea behind the working retreat, to
I
be
saw.
able to tackle that item as well as revisit the rubric and do all those sort of things, and through the course of at least a half a day.
Yes.
Was the idea.
So, and that's when I wrote the word work and retreat down. We can't do it in this hour. I mean, so I'm not against doing it, but we can't do it in the same hour.
Yeah.
Especially
So yeah, I respect
especially,
that. I just want
yes.
to let me just state 2 things really quickly. So the math is very simple, and this is why I sent the email, because I when I saw that the reallocation was not on the agenda, I said, let me just go ahead and send this email so everybody can be clear about some certain facts.
Well, I hear you. So,
well, hold on,
I'm
Reverend.
sorry.
Let me just say this: that we had 465,000 allotted. So the irony is that we actually don't actually have to reallocate anything. It is literally just to align with the monies that we did not spend from the beginning of the fund. So $465,000 by 5 years is $2,325,000. That alone can fund 9 of the 11 projects fully.
Yeah. So I'm not
that's,
going.
And one second. I hear you on, like, this particular meeting may not be the meeting now that we know that it's not in there, but we should meet again next week, or when is the what's today's date? Oh wait, no. We should, if you said Saturday, I'm willing to. I mean, if there's enough people, I'm willing to meet on the weekend to push this out, because the URA meeting is next week.
All I'm saying is,
I mean, it's now or it's we look at it in August, and that is completely unfair to the people that put in applications for their developments. It is completely unfair.
I agree. I'm not thinking August. I'm just thinking a separate work and retreat time that we can take the quality time we need to kind of get there, and not at this meeting. I did print out your narrative And so whether it's right or wrong, correct or perfect or absolute, it reminds me of the Gospels. And I try, don't want to go spiritual on you, but there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they each had a different vantage point of their chapter of their. And so I think we can. So we I don't want to. So we each have a different vantage point of our history of this whole history of this where we are. And so I'm willing to, and I can't say Saturday because my Saturday's already done, but I'm willing for the team, all of us, to try to find a sooner than later time where we can earmark 2 or 3 hours to really deal with just, this allocation and other issues.
And just for clarity, Kim, the URA met last week. We don't meet again until April 9th.
Oh, sorry. I was thrown off. Okay, so can we agree that we will have a meeting, another meeting completely dedicated back to the community development issue and the reallocation of funds specifically for that, and in time for us to get the decision to the URA so that it could be passed in April so that the developers can also take advantage of the summer.
Excuse me, I have a comment. Our first concern should be not the developers, but our community, so they can make intelligent decisions about what's going on in the future. Because what I keep hearing, and is about helping developers, which is fine, helping developers, but the developers in the Hill District that I know of, they have plenty of money, and I'm not talking about the small business developers. So I'm not sure what the
we're talking about
let
these
me
are.
let me finish. Let me
Oh,
finish.
okay, but you
Please.
did interrupt me though. But go ahead.
I'm not sure what the hurry is. So August would seem to be fine because we can have community meetings, we can have input. That should be our first priority, not how the developers are getting along. Thank you.
Okay. So she interrupted me, but I'll address her comments as well. So first of all of the developers that are applied for this, none of them are wealthy, and all of them are from the Hill or they work in the Hill. These are all Black developers. So I'm not sure where you're getting this idea from. These people are not from outside of our community. They're from our community. That's number one. Number two, the summer does matter for development. It absolutely matters, and especially in Pittsburgh, where it still snowed in late March. We just had, not that I'm there, no shade, but it just snowed last week. So, like, the weather does matter. I mean, if somebody else can weigh in, I mean, Councilman Lavelle, you've been over these projects many times. You know the importance of the summer. I mean, somebody else can talk about it, but no, I think that the summer is very important. And also, Ms. Loretta, respectfully, you weren't here, so you weren't a part of the conversations where we were outlining things that were not assigned universally, and things were unfair. And so I'm trying to bring it back to fairness and transparency and also consideration for the development in our community. We can't say that we want housing. We can't say that we need things, and then we stop the people that are trying to build these things.
I'm not talking about whether it is for summer is for good for developers. I do know that's when their building season is. I do know that much. My main concern is our constituents in the third ward. That's what I'm worried about. They need to have input, whether it be in August or December. We can't rush this, whether they be small business or people of color. We can't rush this. Thank you.
Can I make a request? And this is sort of like off to the side. If we do have a reallocation meeting or whenever it is, whether it's next month or in August or whenever, is it possible that the powers that be could compile a reallocation proposal so that we'll have numbers, and instead of fishing for how much we can do and what we can and cannot do, can we have that compiled up front so that it would make it easier to make a decision or vote on? Is that possible?
Sorry, Richard. I think Hopefully I'm not muted. Um, from my recollection, reviewing past advisory board meetings, I think when James Reed was at the URA and working to support the fund, I think that's in fact what happened. I think there was a presentation of, correct me if I'm wrong, but like three different scenarios, and then the board kind of weighed in on that. And so, as a staff person of this fund, I'm happy to do that if people would like something to respond to, which may be helpful, but also to document what has already been approved. So there's this annual drawdown of 1.5 and the percentages. What has been approved and not spent in other line items, I think would also be helpful to help that conversation be as productive as possible. And I'm happy to do that work.
Hi, Kirk. This is Britt. I have been posting in the chat just to because I know that we are running out of time. Can I make a motion to just go ahead and solidify the date that the team or the committee could land on having this working retreat or this workshop, or just to have these discussions? That way we can get that scheduled and move forward. So again, just making a motion to just
So,
vote, discuss, schedule a date to do this and have this conversation,
so I
and then
hate
we
to
can
be
move
the
on.
Robert Rules of Order person, but technically, Britt, no, you cannot make that motion. The Hill Consensus Group has appointed Loretta Payne. She has filled out her paperwork, provided her, um, and so she
Okay,
is
well,
now here as
sorry,
the.
Councilman Lavelle. Is there anyone that is willing, that has the ability to make the motion to schedule this out so that we're not maybe wasting the rest of the meeting discussing why we need it or when we need it, but just kind of maybe figuring out the date so that can get on the books, and then the next agenda item could be discussed? If anyone
Yeah,
feels
I mean, I can make the
inclined.
motion. I had seconded in the chat, so I'm fine with that. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and set up the meeting for the reallocation, specifically around the development applications that we received, and have that deep dive meeting. And then, well, yeah, that's my motion.
Is there anyone willing to second the motion so it can get scheduled and the next agenda item can be discussed?
Yeah, I can second.
Yeah.
Kirk, is there any proposed dates that you have in mind for the working retreat that might be able to satisfy this need to have this conversation?
I don't at the moment, Britt, but I'm
Okay,
happy
what
to
would
work
next
around
steps
collective
be?
schedules.
Can we at least say the next 30 days or less, or we have it, but it will push us to come together. And again, I would, when you deal with numbers, I would prefer us to kind of, if we can, be in person, with like Richard said, some level of pre-documentation that would help the process. But not that we all, Zoom meetings are fine, but when I get down to dollars and cents, I like to sometime have this committee come together if that's possible. And we can do both Zoom and present, but I like to have at least that as an option.
Mm-hmm. And I can be present for that.
Thank you, Alex. I did not know that the URA did not have to vote on the allocation plan. So that's even more helpful. So yeah, the
Yeah.
next 30 days, if that could be organized, and it sounds like that would be a plan. And if everyone feels good about that.
But the
Kirk, I'm assuming,
URA, I'm sorry, Britt, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Kirk, I'm assuming that can't necessarily be voted on or decided right now, but is there like just a commitment to getting a few dates out to the committee so that they can vote on which date is best and then it happen in 30 days?
Yes, I'm not sure if your
Okay,
motion went to a collective vote, but if that is what is approved, then absolutely.
sure.
It
Whatever
was
needs
it
to
was
happen to
mine.
get there.
Right. We are in the middle of the motion. It was mine, and Lakeisha seconded. I think it's because it's tied to scheduling. But I guess well, just I have a question on the table of my own motion. Alex, um, it's good to know that the URA doesn't have to approve our reallocation, but is there any admin necessary for the URA to, if we decide, okay, we have reallocated and we want these development projects to move forward, is it still required for them to like announce it and do it at the URA meeting?
Yeah,
Because that affects our schedule.
funds are actually being expended. So that needs to be approved by the URA board.
Okay, so see that's so and when is the I'm sorry, Councilman Lavelle, you did say when the meeting was, but I've already forgotten. Sorry.
I think it's April 9th.
Yes, that's the next URA board meeting.
April 9th?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Man, seeing I heard 19. Seeing I was just making up stuff. Okay. Okay. So is that the end? Should we try to meet at the end of March or oh not well
I think the goal was to send out some dates that we can try to meet. So and we put a timeline on within the next 30 days. So that's our goal, I think, and I think the motion is in the next 30 days to call a physical meeting or Zoom collectively, either or hybrid, to discuss the allocation dollars.
And Kirk or Councilman Lavelle, does everyone have to vote for that to be a commitment for Kirk, or is that something that you'll just do, Kirk?
No, it was a motion, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
Councilman, but I'll put that in your.
Yes, it should be voted on.
Okay. Is everyone willing or ready to vote for
Yes.
that? Okay. I'm not voting.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries.
Cool.
Are there any other questions relative to the current applications? If not, you want to move down to the timeline,
Yes.
Kurt?
Yep. Hopefully you guys can see the timeline. And again, I'll just recap really quickly. 2 remaining advisory board meetings that were scheduled at the end of 2025, and that's April 14th and May 21st. The plan to resume meetings in August of 2026, and then the plan to have a working retreat. Again, as Councilman Lavelle mentioned, that would be, a half day of intense work with this advisory board to do things like establish community agreements, debrief on the first round of funding, have a timeline for a second round of funding, and discuss approval of any additional guidelines. And I just have a couple examples there that I know have been of importance. I was excited to hear if there's any feedback that could be related to additional potential focal points of what that retreat would accomplish and aim to accomplish, or any other general comments related to this timeline.
I have just one question. I'm okay with the timeline. I'm uncomfortable at this point of having the summer off.
Okay.
There's so much on the calendar. So I could agree with everything except for voting on saying we're going to take a 2-month reprieve.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not sure if this, and again, I'll yield to Councilman Lavelle. I'm not sure if this needed to necessarily be approved. It was just a suggestion. But Reverend Grayson, I could easily see that one of those months, June or July, is the working retreat, and then the other one is the advisory board meeting. And so I'm happy to figure out what works best. Are there any
Yeah,
other? Go ahead.
No, just to follow up on Rev's point. The idea wasn't you would take the summer off, but rather you would use one of those monthly board meetings as your actual retreat.
Okay. All right, that sounds a little better because
Okay.
because there's so many issues going on. I would hate to say word get out that they've taken a sabbatical for the summer. So the wording sounds kind of scary.
Understood,
Got
Rev.
you.
I got you. Yep. Understood.
I agree with Rev.
Okay.
What was I going to say? I don't know if this could be a part of, well, I guess it's a part of the retreat, but I just wanted to kind of remind everybody, our goal was not to piecemeal our grant making by subject. And Kirk can tell you that when he was doing his rounds and just talking to everybody, I suggested based on what we had already worked on. So people who were here, 4 years ago at this point, know that we worked on the application itself, and we wanted to have like a general application and then people could check what they wanted the grant for, as like their initial application. So we had all of the topics like development, historic preservation, children and youth program, family services, housing, all of them. And now we're only getting through with the children and youth pieces. We're only getting through 3, but that was not the goal. Our community has great needs, and I just want to make sure that we go back to, let's do grant making for our entire slate. That was the goal. And I don't know how we got off track. Well, I in some ways I do know, actually,
Well,
but I just want to bring us back to that.
this committee didn't approve the additional guidelines for those buckets.
Right. And Kim, the application we did create, inspired by some of our discussion, you do reach a landing page where you're able to click one of the 3 approved guidelines. But to Councilman Lavelle's point, we need to have those guidelines, because they have to be formally approved by the URA, developed, agreed to by this board, then approved by the URA, for there to be additional check boxes. And then just in relation to the children's, youth, and education, I think, and I'm learning, our deadline that we publicly have communicated is April 30th, or until the funds are expended, like the development program initiative line item. And I know from some of the discussions I've had with some of our children's, youth, and education providers, specifically gearing up for a project in the summer, I think people have been anticipating that April 30th guideline. So we're kind of taking them as they come in. I have seen an uptick just even over the last couple of weeks. I know we will get more, but I think that's more a function of how we communicated the deadline and how a lot of providers ultimately are going to submit applications that either are for programs that start in the summer or programs that start in the fall of next school year. So I just think it's a learning piece. But again, I think the guidelines, which is why I have it as a focus of a working retreat, there are other needs on those line items. We just have to collectively come up with something that this board will approve, so that it could be approved by the URA and added and provide other opportunities for our community.
Okay, so then let's make that a priority at the retreat so that we go through each one.
It's on there. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So I just want to be clear on, and I'm sorry if I'm missing a hand that's up. So we know we have the motion approved to convene within 30 days. I will send out a list of potential dates to this committee tomorrow, and hopefully we get a consensus. I think those who may not be able to join in person, maybe there's a component where they could still join online, and that'll just be figuring out where to best hold the next meeting. And then I heard this committee clearly, we pick a date in June or July, one or the other, for the working retreat, but do not communicate a hiatus and do not take a hiatus, as we know this work is important and we're starting to have some success, guys. And I get it. And I will refine that plan accordingly.
Any other questions for the good of the order? I know a number of people are about to drop off. If not, then thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.